When dealing with someone who displays narcissistic traits, the most vital realization is that they do not engage with you through ordinary human connection. You likely live by the foundational belief that healthy bonds require mutual respect, fair reciprocity, and a joint effort to understand one another. That is the hopeful perspective you carry because it is what allows authentic relationships to flourish. However, the person sitting across from you views human interaction through a totally different frame. Their approach is not built on collaboration or mutual care. Their absolute focus is on dominance. A narcissist's main objective in any exchange is to capture authority, admiration, absolute agreement, and constant reassurance, and they intend to secure those things strictly on their own terms. If reaching that goal demands that they distort the facts or rewrite reality, they will do it without a moment of hesitation. If it means pushing you into self-doubt until you question your own memory, they will take that step without feeling a shred of remorse. If it requires undermining your confidence so you are easier to handle, that is the path they will take, and they will feel no guilt along the way. This dynamic is precisely why the damage is so severe. Keep watching because understanding this single shift will alter how you respond forever. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that if they offer enough kindness, show endless patience, or express their feelings with ultimate clarity, the narcissist will finally see the truth and change. That idea is a complete illusion. A narcissist does not grow through logic, open discussion, or appeals to basic fairness. They only react to firm consequences. If you ignore this reality, you are setting yourself up for endless frustration, deep confusion, and emotional collapse. Taking this awareness and applying it to your daily life requires a complete shift in strategy. The very first step is to focus on their actual actions instead of listening to their words. Narcissists are masters at telling you the exact words you long to hear. They will promise that things will be different next time. They will pretend to feel deep regret. They will even play the victim just to pull you back into their ongoing chaos. But the crucial question you must force yourself to ask is what their consistent actions reveal. If there is a repeating pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, or disrespect, then that pattern is the absolute truth of the situation, regardless of what smooth promises they make in the moment. The second step is learning to recognize the specific tactics they use to maintain control over your mind. One of the subtle mechanisms they use is gaslighting, which aims to destroy your trust in your own perception. They will deny saying things even when you have undeniable proof. They will rewrite past events until you find yourself apologizing for things that were never your fault. The more energy you spend getting dragged into those endless debates, the more power you hand over. Defending your stance automatically puts you in a secondary position. You end up constantly reacting to their moves, which leaves them in total control of the narrative. Another strategy they use constantly is intermittent reinforcement. This involves mixing small moments of warmth with sudden cruelty in unpredictable cycles. This pattern is potent because it works like an addiction. If someone were mean to you all the time, you would eventually see the situation clearly and leave. But because they throw in occasional moments of kindness, your brain gets hooked on the hope that the good version of them will return. You hope that if you just act right or say the correct thing, you will get more of that positive attention and less of the hostility. This creates a destructive attachment, where you stay not because the relationship is good for you, but because you are constantly chasing those brief flashes of affection. In truth, those warm moments are just another tool to keep you hooked. Pay close attention to this next point because it exposes their exact playbook. Then there is projection. A narcissist will accuse you of the exact flaws they carry themselves. If they are being dishonest, they will call you a liar. If they are acting irrationally, they will claim you are the one losing control. This strategy gives them two major wins. It distracts from their behavior, and it keeps you so busy defending your character that you cannot step back to see what is really happening. Seeing these patterns is not about becoming cold or paranoid. It is about gaining clarity. It is about dropping the illusions you held on to and looking at the plain facts. Once you see the game for what it is, you stop playing. And when you stop playing, they lose all power. If you want to stop feeling controlled and drained, you must see the narcissist for who they are rather than who you wish they could be. The truth, even when it stings, is always more useful than a comfortable lie. One of the most exhausting traps you can step into is chasing their approval. I am not just talking about obvious attempts to impress them. I mean those subtle ways you alter your behavior to avoid their anger, win a tiny crumb of recognition, or finally get treated with basic respect. This trap is easy to fall into because we are wired for connection. When we put effort into a relationship, work, or family, we expect our contributions to be valued. We think that if we explain ourselves clearly, show loyalty, and display patience, they will acknowledge our worth. But that moment never comes. Narcissists do not operate on fairness. They view your extra effort not as a reason to respect you, but as proof that their control is working. Every time you bend over backward to avoid their disapproval, you confirm their authority over you. Every time you wait for their seal of approval, you surrender your self-worth. If you believe there is a perfect combination of words that will make them see your value, you are wasting time. Their standards are meant to shift constantly. The moment you meet one condition, they invent a new requirement you were never meant to satisfy. The core realization is simple. It is not about you. Their inability to treat you properly is not a statement about your value as a person. It is the direct result of their own internal issues. A narcissist's ego is remarkably fragile, built entirely on a false sense of superiority that needs non-stop external validation to survive. They cannot afford to be wrong because admitting a mistake would crush their fragile self-image. They cannot allow others to be valued because that feels like losing control. So they go through life taking, manipulating, and shrinking the people around them to maintain their fragile image. Once you internalize this, your direction becomes clear. You must detach emotionally, mentally, and where possible, physically. That shift begins with one firm decision. Stop seeking their approval entirely. This does not mean being aggressive or hostile in return. It means removing yourself from the emotional drama they create. In daily life, this means you stop justifying yourself. A narcissist loves a debate because an argument proves their opinion matters to you. The second you begin defending your actions, you lose the exchange. The discussion becomes centered around their distorted view of you instead of reality. Stop explaining yourself to someone who listens only to find weakness. If they twist your words, let them. If they misjudge your intentions, let it be. Their distorted perspective is not your problem to solve. You must also let go of the search for closure. This is tough because we naturally want resolution. We want that moment where the other person admits their fault, apologizes, and gives us fairness. But that moment is not coming. The longer you wait for it, the longer you stay trapped in their space. The only closure you will get is the closure you give yourself. It comes from deciding to walk away, dropping the argument, and realizing that their agreement is not required for your worth to be complete. More than anything, this step means reclaiming your own source of validation. If you spent years adjusting your character to fit the demands of someone incapable of valuing you, it is time to take that authority back. Your worth is not a fragile object dependent on external approval. It is something you claim independently. By taking back your truth and walking away from the game, you restore your peace. You realize your value was never in their hands. Stick around for these final insights because this last mindset shift changes everything. You gain the freedom to build a life where you hold the controls, free from the demands of anyone who seeks to diminish you. This perspective shift is the ultimate step toward freedom. It is the moment you decide your peace, sanity, and dignity matter more than securing approval from someone who cannot give it. You step out of manipulation and into self-reliance. One of the most dangerous mistakes you can make with a narcissist is assuming normal rules apply. You might think that being reasonable, fair, and patient will eventually produce a breakthrough. But that assumption rests on a foundation that does not exist. It assumes the narcissist values fairness or wants a peaceful resolution. They do not. They operate from a totally different mindset. Most people enter a tough conversation expecting a shared reality. They believe that if both sides explain their thoughts, the truth will surface and a fair agreement can be reached. But a narcissist does not care about finding common ground. Their sole focus is winning. That is why being the bigger person or explaining yourself further will never work. To a narcissist, your willingness to stay in the argument, keep explaining, and search for a rational answer is not seen as strength. It is seen as vulnerability. It tells them they still control your attention and emotions. It shows them you are still hooked on their dynamic. To change the outcome, you must stop reacting the way they expect. Stop feeding them the emotional energy they rely on. Narcissists cannot create their own inner stability or genuine self-esteem. They must pull it from people around them. That is why they provoke conflict out of nowhere. Drama is how they capture your energy, and energy equals power. To strip away that power, you must master emotional detachment. This does not mean shoving your feelings down inside. It means developing the skill to stay steady when they try to bait you. It means recognizing that their attempts to guilt you or drag you into another debate are simple tactics to keep you hooked. This is where gray rocking becomes essential. It is a practical technique where you make yourself as plain, unbothered, and neutral as possible during interactions. Narcissists feed on big reactions, whether it is anger, sadness, or frustration. Emotional displays show them they are still directing your mood. But if you refuse the bait and keep your responses flat, their leverage disappears. They get bored and move on. Let us be real. Staying calm when someone is trying to provoke you takes serious effort. It is hard to hear false statements and choose not to correct them. It is tough to watch them twist facts while you sit back and let them believe whatever they want. But doing this is necessary. Every time you fight back or try to clear your name with someone who does not care about truth, you feed the very engine that drains you. Detachment is a form of self-discipline. It is looking at the situation and knowing you do not need their agreement. When you reach that level of calm, you become untouchable. A narcissist cannot control someone they cannot provoke. The most effective response to a narcissist is not a huge fight or an angry outburst. It is total indifference. When they realize they can no longer pull you into their chaos, they lose interest. That exact moment is when you get your freedom back. One of the biggest hazards you face is getting trapped in their ongoing cycle of drama. You might think that if you present undeniable proof or make them see how unfair they are, everything will settle down. That expectation is a complete illusion. A narcissist does not argue to reach clarity. They argue to dominate. Their target is not truth. It is keeping you hooked and reacting. As long as you react, you remain in their arena under their rules. Think about how this usually plays out. You bring up a clear issue about something hurtful they did. A healthy person would listen and try to understand your point of view. A narcissist deflects instantly. They turn the blame around, bring up an old mistake you made years ago, or distort your words completely. Before you realize what happened, you are no longer talking about their behavior. You are spending all your energy defending your own character. That is how they win the moment. Once you start defending yourself, the original issue vanishes, and you end up on trial fighting for your reputation while they watch you burn out. Stopping this pattern requires a total exit from the battle. You stop defending your actions, explaining your motives, or trying to win a game that was rigged from the start. Choosing not to participate does not mean letting people walk over you, and it does not mean accepting unfair treatment. It means refusing to play a rigged game. It means setting clear boundaries that are not open for debate. A narcissist relies on emotional chaos to keep you off balance. When you remove your reaction, you remove their fuel. You take back your authority and keep your peace intact, knowing your worth does not depend on their approval. You do not need their permission to live in reality. By walking away from the noise, you reclaim your focus and move forward into a life directed by your own values, completely free from their control.